Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, How to Make Informed Decisions in the Current Real Estate Market in Colombia in 2023. I'm happy and grateful to be here with you and share some insights about what is happening right now at the real estate market in Colombia. We have seen a lot of information, a lot of headlines that are, well, distracting, maybe confusing, but the important here is that I want to share how is the market behaving, what is at this moment, why we are here at this point, and also to know more about how, in general, is the real estate market in Colombia. This is basically because I see that it also depends on how you see everything. And the idea of this webinar is to make an outlook, to have tools and information and data that is the most important to have better insight about what is happening in the real estate market. As we say here in Colombia, maybe there is depends on how you see the glass of water, if it's half full or is half empty. So we're gonna analyze what is the things that are affecting now the current real estate market. Will be the first part. Then we're gonna check how the real estate cycle has been developing in Colombia in the latest 20 years, and where are the opportunities now, and what can we see on the challenges in the future. Who is this for? Basically, if you are a foreign investor that you already have bought property in Colombia, you have your apartment, you have some investment, some Airbnb running, or if you are planning for any other reason that you already decided to have Colombia as your first choice. So this is important to know what information is this, and basically to help you and have better decisions. Yeah, we see that if you only depend of one source, this is something that I want to share. I have seen a lot of information in forums that there is like a lot of fear, a lot of pessimism, but that's the idea. So this webinar is also be recorded, so you can also check it out later as well. So let's start by introducing myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mauricio Jaimes. I'm a developer in Colombia. Basically, I'm in the city of Bucaramanga. I've been in the real estate industry for over 25 years more, and we have a company that have invested in basically in housing projects, also in commercial projects, and rent property for rent. So we cover a lot of things of the market. As also I've been assisting foreigners to invest in real estate in Colombia, basically for almost 15 years. That's also one of the important things that I've been helping many of foreigners that have settled here in Colombia and have started successful real estate investments in Colombia. So you want to check my social media, you can find more information. So let's begin starting talking why is the behavior of the market at this point. Let's check what is the current real estate market. And there is a lot of data, but the thing here is that the most important is how to evaluate this information. Let me check if I have this presentation. Just give me one moment to make a refreshment and see what is the let's start saying what was the behavior of sales in the last quarter. Yeah, and here it's important to know that we have basically the amount of sales in real estate. This is I'm gonna check this. Well, here we have how have been the behavior of the real estate in Colombia, basically in the last 15 years. Yeah, and we see that here we have the total housing of sales of new developments. Basically, this graphic is a courtesy from La Galería Inmobiliaria, and we see that normally the amount of housing in Colombia, of new housing, is divided in the what we call the BIS or no BIS. BIS is the social housing, market, that the social housing development that are subsidized by the government. And why this is not always important to check that both parts of the amount of sales are divided basically the BIS or not BIS. We came from the last 10 years having a portion about 70% of sales, of new sales, are from the social housing segment. So this is an important factor, an important thing that makes the driving of the real estate industry in Colombia. The other thing that is important to know is that construction is measured basically for new developments. That's why all the analysis and all the graphics are taken by the amount of new developments and the new launch of projects. So this is important to have it in mind in order to know what has been the behavior of sales in the last 20 years. Basically, we can see here in this graphic from Galería Inmobiliaria that the amount of sales were starting basically driven by the social housing projects. And the other graphic is the one that is just the other segment that is not subsidized. That is also the market that is driving for any other type of construction. We see here, for example, the lockdown in 2020. It was the drastic fell in the amount of projects, and then we have an interesting recovery, also driven by the housing sector. This is important to understand it because this is the way that we are seeing now how the amount of sales are starting to have. We have at least, or we were having in 2021 a peak of sales in the total amount. These two segments are around 220,000 units per year. Basically, that was an average. And we have this recovery different from other Latin American countries. Basically, once the pandemic finished, it started to recover. And also because as construction is one of the most important segments in the industry that drives economic growth, the government at that point said or allowed all workers from construction were one of the first industry to have less restrictions of the COVID. That's why the recovery was also fast, and it helped to drive these peaks of housing. There was also one of the years that was record in sales was 2021. We saw about almost 250,000 units. So that's why also the adjustment of the sales now in at the end of 2021, was decreasing. And this, we can see that starting the 2022, all the 2022 year was decreasing, and having this average of around 200,000. Let's see what is the importance of the social housing here. For example, we see that the number of units that was sold monthly for this segment uh, was around this average around 10,000, yeah, 12,000 units from 2022. And we saw that in the worst of the phase of the pandemic, we saw that this we had a 6,300 units sold. The fell down here is very drastic, and I'm going to explain you why. We see that we were adjusting basically since the election in August. Well, the election was in May, but once the new government started in August, things were starting to slow because there was no clarification about how is were going to be the policy of the housing, the policies of the house for the housing, the social housing segment. So it took almost all the latest 3 months of the year to have some clarification about that. So in March, around March of this year, finally the government said that what is gonna the requirements or the conditions to get access to the social housing were gonna change, and they changed drastically. Normally, when the program, there was a program called Mi Casa Ya that was successful in the latest 10 years. And basically, there was a program that was giving incentives in terms of interest rates, of access for different type of people. There was program for young people on the from the ones that were starting in the working force, and up to 28 years, something like about that age. Also, for the ones who were renting, there was a program with renting that allows to get like a lease back. You were able also to have to get access to these subsidies, and basically was condition for the amount of the income. Basically, that was the income. We have here minimum wage income, and there was a range up to 4 minimum wage that you can have these subsidies. It includes all people from urban areas, from middle-sized cities, and this kind of people that was also independent, and that's why the program was successful, and that, as we saw, drives the growing of all the sales of new projects in the country. So, seeing that the conditions change, now you have to I mean, people who wants to get access to these subsidies are not based only in the income. Just they are also need a qualification, and a score that you have to have, depending of different factors. There are like 10 different factors, and it gives you a score up to 100 points, and that depends on if the project is in an urban area, if it's in a rural area, if it's a victim of violence, or if it's in the new peace process. I mean, there are a lot of conditions that restrict the access to this. While what do you say, the justification for this, the government, the word is justification, The justification of the government to change this is because they say that they want to uh, target the people who are in rural areas to benefit small towns and well, some other conditions, the people who are most vulnerable. And well, that's basically the justification of why they changed this. Unfortunately, when this type of governments that say that they want to benefit the less favorable people or the less favorable populations of the country, at the end is affecting them because we made a simple exercise. A person that is that has a minimum wage in a rural area is not going to be able to pay for an apartment or a house that is around 120 million pesos. That is the range, and up to 174 millions this year regarding the amount of the minimum wage. That is also a limitation for the housing sales. So basically, this is the thing that is restricting. We see that, for example, from a monthly amount of 12,000 in January, in February, and in March was the lowest one, was 5,800, is the lowest amount of social housing sale even at the pandemic. And that's something that we say a red flag that says that this is uh, a direct effect of the policies of the government. That's basically what is happening. And that's important to have it to know, because when you see, let's check, for example, this is the not the housing different from the social. Yeah, even there was also a downturn. We see a reduction of the 80% in 2023. We see that in average, the amount of housing that is sold in the country is around 80,000. 80,000 could be a good average. We see that could be between 70,000 to 80,000, and now is in 62,000. This is an opportunity. You can see that let's not talk an opportunity or a crisis. Just you can have your own conclusion. However, what we see is that as long as the housing, I mean the social housing is reducing, there's gonna be some room for the other type of housing to increase. So that's what we see at this point, that we, for example, new projects are going to be in this range of area. So basically, that's what is in terms of number of sales. I'm going to turn back again here to see what is the average amount of sales. We see that this, I mean, this the decrease in the sales, well, it has to be a lot with the drastic diminishing of the housing project. As well, we see that also the housing different from the social is just with some kind of the cycle of real estate. If you see here from 2015, we see that we have a line around 50, 60,000. That is going to be the average of unit that are sold. So we can see here also that there is not a trend or a drastic trend that reflects that the market is going to broke. That's something that is important. The issue basically is in the social housing segment. So let's see now what is the amount of the supply. Yeah, that's also important to know what is the supply. This is also a graphic that is taken from La Galería Inmobiliaria. This is a private market research company. And we see that what is the amount also different from the social housing and also different from social housing. And what is the average per year? So we see that the offer is also, even it was increasing the launch of new projects. We see that there is not an oversupply. Yeah, there is only an adjustment of the number of units that is having, and the fact that the number of sales is decreasing is going to help to adjust the market of all the projects that have been started in the next or the coming year. So we see that there is, in fact, there is going to be a decrease in the sales. There's going to be also a decrease in launch of new projects, but what we see that there is not an overheating of the market. There is not a sign of bubbles, like someone said, and that's something that we have to bear in mind. We as developers, we are seeing that in the case of what initially was mostly an important segment of any project was the social housing. We see that at this point, the most important is to see that there is a demand, as we're gonna see later in other the next slides. So here I'm gonna talk about how's been the price evolution, because this is also an important factor that you can have and bear in mind if we are having an increase in the prices of real estate or not. You have to bear in mind, and it's something that I always say, that basically the Colombia is not a single market. Yeah, you have to see that different areas and analyze every city depending of how are the different demographics. It depends a lot of things. And for example, we saw that there is an headline saying that the prices for properties in Medellin are increasing a lot in the latest 2 years. But there is something specific for Medellin that is basically related to the licensing and the new projects that makes that there is no I mean, the cost of the land is too high in respect to the units a developer can do in certain places. So that's why there is not many offer of new projects, at least for apartments. So the demand for rental and use housing is increasing. So let's check what is happening with the historic of the housing prices, basically in Colombia. This is a graphic that was taken from ANIF. This is an institution also that analyzes all the market in Colombia. Let's check the graphic here. And it's also important to know what have been the crisis or the cycles that have affected the real estate market in the latest 30 years. Sorry. We see, for example, here that we have this down in 1997 to 2000. That was the mortgage crisis. At that point, that was the most important, the most critical phase of the construction in basically 50, 70 years. And it was due to the increase in high interest rates. Yeah, there was a factor that helped to incentivize the purchase of property, and this was something called the UPAC. It was a factor that was indexed in order to have a long-term interest rate to people that allowing them to buy real estate. Initially, that tax was indexed to the cost of living, basically, but then it changed the formula to add it to the interest rate. In 1998, I remember that we had inflation's about 15 to 18% at that point. But we had interest rates of for construction, for example, was around 30 to 35%. Even we had it peaked to 40%. And that's create this crisis that make it, well, all prices, all the depth of the property to increase in different ways that many buyers wanted to give up from their properties, give it to the banks. Banks were full of them of properties, and there was a crisis that had a terrible consequence for companies, for banks, and for the economy in general. We see that we have like 3 4 years in recovering, even until 2005. That's why the starting of the recovering of this crisis. But here, the important thing is to know that we learned a lot of lessons from this. We as the developers also learned that we needed to control the offer, the supply, and that was where a mechanism called the fiducias, or like escrow, started to also be very helpful. And that's why that all developers were starting to have start a project until they reach the break-even point. Before that, there was not any other projects. So that also helped to control the supply of new projects and start their recovering. So we see, for example, here what were the prices in until 2017, and the the steady growth that housing prices is having on on the market. I'm gonna look here for a graph that I have it here. This is one of the graphics that I want to share with you. Here we want to see how or compare what are the prices of housing compared with other Latin American economies. Yeah, we see this is a graphic shared for one of our colleagues, and we see here, for example, how uh, Colombia Colombian prices is behaving regarding the housing prices. We see here from 2013, for example, Colombia is the black line. We see that prices are being steady, uh, different from, for example, Argentina is the yellow one, where you see that variation and a drastic fell down here. Also, well, just to compare with Spain, there's also different variations, and this does include also the 2008 crisis. But here in Colombia, that's what I wanted to also uh, highlight, that thanks to what we learned from that crisis at the end of the 90s and at the beginning of 2000, we saw that the market basically of new projects is regulated for the demand. Basically, developer does not initiate a project, a building, until they reach the break-even point. Normally, this break-even point is not necessarily 50%. It's almost 60, 70%. And then the construction is started. So that's why prices are reflects this trend. So that's important to know it, that this it works in that way. So I'm gonna go back and see what also another important things. What are the basic fundamentals for for the economic? Now that we see that, well, what is the trend? Where are we at this point of the market, and how we're gonna see? Let's see what are the trends that drives the economic cycle in Colombia, basically in the real estate industry. Uh, the first thing that you have to see is the economic growth. Basically, we as a country, we have been having a constant, or like we said, like conservative economic management. We're seeing with this new trend of, I mean, with the new government, the thing is that the most thing that see people here is uncertainty of what are the policies. Basically, what is being in these 6 7 months that this government is, there is no clarity. They say one thing, then do other things. They announce one policy. We have an strict. Fortunately, we have a control, a strong and constitutional entities, and we see now at the Congress that not everything that the government propose is having. We have it now at the health program policy, also the working reform, and all these projects that are being at least debate for other political parts in the Congress. So this says about why even whatever is the government or whatever the executive or the president wants to do, we keep our institutions like Banco de República, like DANE, that is also the statistic, national planning. Those are entities that are very technical and take that the economic variables keep at least control. So we see that this economic growth is going to be also something that is gonna continue. We know now that this year we're going to have a small growth. We came from rates from 4 to 5. We see that at least in 2023, the economic is going to be around 2%, and that's also because the global factors that affect the economic. So that's in terms of economic growth. It's important to know that at least the country is different from others in Latin America, and we keep this at these rates that are acceptable. The other thing that is important to know for you, being the big picture in the real estate market, is the housing deficit that we have in Colombia. Yeah, I we are now at this moment 51 million people. That's the an average of the amount of population Colombia has, and at least there are 70 million households. Yeah, and from that there is the latest data says that we have 31% of housing deficit, and this housing deficit is measured. There is a qualitative and a quantitative. Yeah, the difference between the two is the one is that the type of the state of the state, basically. Yeah, because some states needs renovation, others needs to be changed. Yeah, all the ones that they don't have housing. Yeah, that's the two different housing deficit, but in general it sum up about 30% of the population. That's around 5.2 million units of deficit. Uh, Also, the average from households have changed from 2005. We have an average persons per household of 5. Now we see that the new demographic are different. We see that the millennials are also not. Are reducing the number of peoples in the households, and we see that's had changed in the last 15 years from 5 to 2.6. So this is one of the trends that are also driving the real estate market. So whatever the government, whatever the policies, people will always need a place to live. So that's important to have it in mind. Yeah, and that's what we as companies, as developers, that's our job to see what are the niche that are needing at this point. What are also what are the type of housing that has a lot of demand, and see where are the opportunities. No, this is interesting because this is a study made by the, MIT and La House. Yeah, called "Confronting the Housing Challenge." It was made in July in 2022, and they made a very interesting assessment about the real estate market in Colombia and Mexico. And this graphic shows what is going to be the trend regarding the demographics and how the total deficit of units is gonna have. And they say that at least to comply with the demand, it's at least 400,000 units. That's the amount of units that is needed to to build at least in every year to keep with this with perhaps controlling this housing deficit. Yeah, we saw that around uh, new projects are in average. We saw at the beginning of the presentation that we sell around 180,000 to 200,000 units per year. Yeah, so at least this is going to be the amount. We see that in 2023, this amount is going to be lower. I think that we're gonna reach 180,000 at least. Yeah, but we were from 2021 250, in 2022 almost 220, and we see that here we're gonna have a decrease at least in being positive is around 180. Some others predict that 200,000, but I think 180 is going to be a good number. But seeing what is the things are developing, so this is important to know that also the housing deficit is some intrinsic driving force that moves the real estate cycle. Uh, Also, as I mentioned, there is not a single market in Colombia. We have to analyze which every city, and this is also an interest graph, saying what are the most demanded projection in different cities. And we see that we have Bogota. Bogota is obviously the leading city, was being the capital, but we see that also surrounding towns are having an interesting demand for what we call the peripheral housing. That's towns nearby Bogota, as a lot of people doesn't want to live in the in the center, in downtowns, or just in the city, but around that city. We see that Medellin, also Cartagena and Cali have this dynamic in the projections at least as 2042. So that's important to have it in mind. In terms of housing, the demands for housing in the coming years. There is another measure that we see and is important driver of the housing, yeah, market, and that's the unemployment. Yeah, this is a graph that shows how the unemployment is being controlled in the latest 20 years, around since 2003. We're experiencing an interesting economic growth. That was shown with the decrease of unemployment. You see that the lower the number, the better. Yeah, and we have this peak that was in the pandemic, but we came again with an average around 10 to 12% of national rate. There are also middle cities that have 9%. Bucaramanga, for example, has this last year was 9.5. Also, another cities like Pereira has also a good around 8 or 9% of unemployment, and that's made very active their real estate market. That's basically what we see also as a driving force. The other thing that we have to consider is how prices behave compare with Latin America. Yeah, we see here that Bogota is still one of the lowest prices per square meters. This is a study, an interesting study that is made by a portal, and they measure an average department in different capitals of Latin America, and we see that the lowest price per square meter is Colombia. This is measured in US dollars. So that's very interesting to see that we have also room to for the prices. Obviously, it depends of how are the dynamics in other factors in the terms of capitals that here is compared with another cities. But basically, this is a good indicator that we have a price of $1,108,000 per square meter. So it's important to see. This is the graphic I was showing you. And what is the cost of living in Latin America is another indicator that Colombia has one of the lowest rates of the cost of living compared with other Latin American countries. Those are basically different aspects of the real estate market that you see the big picture here and see what are the opportunities or what are the state of the real estate market. So well, it's not the same that the same panic that you see in other well, when you see a lot of the headlines, you see that maybe having the this all the negative thing that you hear about the Colombian market, it gives you just a feeling that there is no future with the real estate market. However, I was in the latest last week. The last week we had the national, I mean the assembly of Camacol, that is the National Guild of Developer, and we saw that as long as there is a worry about how the market is behaving and how are the policies basically are heading to, there is talking with our developers. They have the projects ongoing. They are just adjusting the way about how they can offer. If they have to give more time to buyers to buy, this is something that is also staying. Prices are keeping also very careful and not to be raised a lot. And those are the measures that helps also to keep the dynamic of the real estate market. Even things that, as we saw at the beginning, the social housing are affecting the general market as well. No? So that's something that I wanted to share with you. Well, here I want to talk, but the idea here was to give you an outline, an insight about the real estate market. And in the next webinar, we're gonna see what we see as opportunity and go deep inside, go deep in any of these type of segments that we see are gonna be opportunities in this market. Just to mention that the working class housing, yeah, seeing that there is no subsidies, there is an opportunity because workers or independents, basically people who has their own companies, I mean, their own business. This we are not talking here about companies, but people who has, well, the working class, even if they are directed with a company or doing like independent works. People who have their stores, the small stores, the people who manufactures shoes manufacturers, clothes, and this type of middle size and small enterprises. That's called the small and middle size enterprises are gonna need also, are gonna cover this housing deficit. So that's important to know. Also rentals. Basically, we see an opportunity here. There is, as long as there is also a part of uh, of the population that won't be able to afford, with this restriction of subsidies, we're going to see that there's going to be an opportunity for rentals, also long term and short term. Yeah, the logistic and distribution centers. This is something that is we're seeing also since the pandemic, and it hasn't stopped. There are new companies that technology is uh, growing fast. There is applications in different segments that's gonna need logistics and warehouse distribution centers, and they need places to do it. And we're seeing it at this point. And also, to the companies that need to outsource, they're gonna need places where to have these facilities. Yeah, and something that we are also seeing is what we call the peripheral housing, is basically the increase in the demand of houses, basically in communities that are with not let's say rural, but in green, yeah, green places near the big cities or the middle-sized cities. This is something that there is a market that is also moving very interesting here. So we're in the next webinar. I hope to have it this on next Wednesday, to see and go deep inside what are the opportunities that you can see in these segments. Also, the business model that is working better against the changes in inflation, changes in the conjunctural state of interest rates. And I'm gonna give also to talk about more about this type of segment. So basically, that's what I wanted to share with you. I hope that you can have more okay, it's been helpful. If you need any other question, let me check here if we saw something here. Well, if you have any questions, just put it on the comments, and I hope you can. If you need any clarification in any subject, please let me know, and I will be glad to have it answered for you. So thank you for being here, for watching this presentation, and please let me know your comments and what other subjects you wanted to know about the real estate market in Colombia. So I hope to see you in the next broadcasting. Thanks.